We're at that point with mobile music creation where the professionals are like, hey, we need more. And we want more
Yes.
because we want to show you that we can do more with these devices. And at the end of the day, I think everybody should at least try if they are, if they're excited about music, if they're excited about music production, because it's right there at your fingertips and you can get it done with little to no money. So.
Hello and welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am your host, Vortex, from MobileMusicPro.com, your home for mobile music production. And we are back at it again with more iOS music discussion, this time from some multi-platinum record producers who also happen to love making music on the iPad. And please don't forget, folks, we want to hear from you on these topics as well, so definitely make sure to leave your thoughts on the discussion in the comments below. And real quick, I did just want to personally thank our panelists so much for donating their time for being on the show. There did end up being some minor scheduling conflicts, but we worked it out in the end. Because remember, these guys have pretty busy lives, especially Henny, who's also a professor at a college. But of course, both of these gentlemen are just as busy as you'd expect from having as much success as they've had in their career, so thank you guys again so much for being on the show. And just a quick reminder that this is the 10th and final episode in Season 1, and we'll be back at it again with Season 2 next year in 2023. I really am just super stoked for you guys to hear this discussion, so without further ado, let's get right into the 10th and final episode of Season 1. Hello and welcome back to the Mobile Music Roundtable podcast right here on the Mobile Music Pro YouTube channel. Guys, I am super thrilled today because these two amazing gentlemen, these two amazing guests today are going to be closing out Season 1 of the podcast, the 10th and final episode of the season. So, guys, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of stuff to get to. We've got some great topics, but I want to get right into introducing these people. You should know who they are, but if you don't, we're going to go ahead and introduce them right now. So first up, we have Henny the Business, who is a multi-platinum record producer, songwriter, professor at Morehouse College, and YouTuber who has also just happened to celebrate his 15 years of marriage. So congratulations on that, Henny.
Thank you so much.
How you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm doing blessed, man. How are you?
Pretty good. Can't complain. I'm just happy to have you back on YouTube, Henny. I think everybody's just happy to have you back on.
Yes.
We need more silent beat making. Hey. We need more all that good stuff right on the iPad.
Hey, I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be back. I took a little second, but I'm back. I'm refreshed.
Yes, sir.
So I'm glad to be here.
And if you are curious about why Henny left, guys, make sure you check out his channel. Check out those videos. He goes in depth and really has some really good advice for keeping up your mental health. So make sure you guys check that out. But then next up, we got Bolo the producer, another multi-platinum record producer, songwriter, and YouTuber, and who just recently earned a gold plaque from the single Taylor Girls Steal Her Man. So hey, Bolo, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm living right now.
Still collecting those plaques, you know.
Yeah, yeah, you got to. I got some I got to pick up. I just haven't sent in the order yet. So it's coming. I don't have as many as Henny right now, but I'm trying to catch up at some point.
The problems you guys have.
I don't even order them. I don't even order them. I just listen. At some point in my life, I'll get them all.
That's so funny. The problems you guys have so funny. It's like, I got plaques, but I just can't be bothered to go and pick them up right now. I love you guys. All right. So with those intros aside, you guys know who these amazing people are. Let's go ahead and get into our very first topic. So that is going to be this, guys. Listen. There is a huge amount of authority here at the roundtable right now. And so I got to know from you guys, I got to get some insight from you guys. Where do you think we are really in terms of iPad music production lifecycle, and where we are, like, from the PC days to the early days and all that good stuff? Like, are we midway, or because personally I think we are kind of still early, since we did just recently get a couple of things like the file manager and external display support, the ability to use keyboard and mouse, all this stuff in iPad OS 13. We're now just getting multitasking in the form of stage managers. But first we'll go with Henny. But what do you think? Where do you think we are in the actual iPad life cycle? Are we early days, mid, and what do you think is next, or what's going to take us to the next level?
Yeah, I would say that we're still in the early stages. The iPad it's really only 10 years old, and everybody's been trying to figure out how to do music production since the iPad was released. What was that? Well, maybe 12 years ago. So I can see now that we've kind of flatlined. It's kind of like when you start working out and you start losing that weight and things are starting to happen for you, and then it's kind of like it just kind of levels off for a little bit. I think that's kind of where we're at in mobile music production. I think we have a lot of great apps out there. I think we have a lot of apps that strongly need updating that a lot of people are using, and I think that we really need to really focus on getting the community to voice their thoughts and their opinions on why we need more professional DAWs and things of that nature, so that we can take this to that next step. Because I think that from the years coming up to now, we've seen some tremendous progress as far as like what we can do on iOS and iPadOS. But I think, we're starting to see, cats like Bolo, maybe even myself, who, we're waiting on other things to happen. And, passion, is one of the things that drives us to get to our devices and start creating. And when things aren't necessarily bringing that passion to these devices, we're going to start to figure out other ways to create and stay active. So I'm really looking forward to developers, doing other things in the DAW space. Of course, we're doing amazing things in the plugin space, in the synth space, but I think it's time for us to figure out exactly what's that next step on the pro features, because I think that's what'll take it to the next step, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely great. Let's hear from Bolo. What are your thoughts on that? According to Henny, we're still a little bit early, and we're looking more towards getting more professional DAWs. What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely, I agree with him totally 100%. The thing is, I was introduced to Beatmaker 2 through Manny Fresh, and that was in 2012. And from that point, I've used Beatmaker 2 and then finally moved up to Beatmaker 3. And now I'm really waiting on the next update for Beatmaker 3, because I was an MPC user, and Beatmaker 3 is maybe the closest thing on the iOS devices that is more or less like a MPC. Even to me, it's even a little bit better than the actual MPC software. Just the usability and just how you can just route things in and come up with some great ideas really quickly. So far as right now, it's kind of like when I remember when I was in college, long time ago, when people were starting to produce on laptops. And this was maybe 2000, 2001. I had my, college laptop. I was producing on that, and I started seeing the growth of, okay, now we're Reason 1, now we're in Cubase, now we're on this, we're on the window. And now we go into Reason 2.5, and then, Reason 3, and instead of going up. But at this point right now, as Henny was saying, is a lot of these programs are just stuck at this point. And of course, a lot of times, I know you probably seen it on maybe I might post something and say, hey, Beatmaker 3, when are we going to come with a new update? They might say, okay, we're working on it, we'll be on it soon. But right now, I think that sparks more creativity, especially like how you see with other major DAWs, how Fruity Loops would, FL would do an update, and they're jumping on the update so fast. It's like, oh my, it's another update. What is this? What is that? Or Reason might come with a new update, or like right now, Presonus just came with Studio One with the new update with that. So it sparks curiosity into, okay, let me get back on here and let's get to work. So everything he said was 100% true. And I'm thinking, right, because I'm actually right now looking for new programs to see, okay, let me try this program to see what this has, just kind of spark a curiosity with it. So I think that if they can give us the updates, like he was saying, the more pro updates for us, I think that'd be really good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally feel what you're saying, because CUBASIS 3 has been on CUBASIS 3 for a while, of course, for years now. Now they have been doing quarterly updates, but it's been far more than a quarter since their last update. So yeah, and of course Beatmaker 3, well, it's been a while since they've had an update as well, and I know people are looking forward to that. So that's a very interesting bottleneck point that we have is right now is with the DAWs. So essentially CUBASIS 3 kind of staying at CUBASIS 3, Beatmaker kind of staying at Beatmaker 3, but hopefully we're hoping that in the next couple of years, not only these two programs get updates to version 4, but eventually we get things like Logic and more professional, more well-known DAWs on there. And of course, we're all looking forward to Logic. Those rumors just keep coming every single year. They just so tasty to buy into, but of course then reality sets in when they come and you're like, you realize that they can't really they're still working on stage manager. Once they get maybe stage manager fully out of beta and fully working, maybe we could start really worrying about more desktop stuff. But yeah, it is slow going, for the people in the industry like us. It may seem like it's going a little bit slow, but from the outside, if you take a look, we did just kind of get AUV3 apps starting in 2018-ish for the most part, though it was invented in 2015. We really didn't get starting those till 2018, and then we didn't get, I believe FabFilter didn't come into like 2018 or 2019. So it's going, but according to you guys, we are still early. So and I definitely agree with that. So I think we can move on to the next topic now. This is great. We're only having a couple of people on here because we can get to more topics. So this is very, very cool. So we'll go back and we'll start out with Bolo on this one. So Bolo, you said recently that there might be too many producers out there right now, which is kind of interesting to me because personally, I think that there might not be enough producers out there because a big thing about the channel is just getting people into actually making music, maybe not even necessarily producing others, but just making music nevertheless. And that's something really, really important to MMP. So let me ask you, like, do you think that, more people being able to get into the iPad music production, that lowering that barrier to entry, is that going to be good or bad for the music industry overall?
Well, with the statement that I was saying is too many is producers versus beat makers, and what I like to do now on my channel is there's so many other channels now that are doing showing production techniques and stuff. Now I'm more into sparking a conversation with other producers, beat makers, producers, whatever you want to call them, and now that debate is actually being talked about to where even Timbaland hit me up and they want to, talk about some more stuff with that. But I think that it's nothing wrong with having a gang of people making beats. There's nothing wrong with that. It's cool because now you have more people to collaborate with, which I discussed that. And I think that with a lot of the stuff that's going on with iOS right now, I think that we can go ahead and have a lot more people producing. Because of course you can go in, you can get you a decent iPad. You can get you a program for less than $30. You can buy some plugins. You can buy some synths for some of them less than 5, 10. Some of them are free, and you can get on here and you can start learning how to produce now. It does not have to wait, and you can really get all of this in some cases with you can get some of these older iPads from places for $200. Get all the programs you need in $300. You're ready to go. It's a pair of headphones and an imagination, and you can be a beat maker or a producer, whatever you want to call yourself. So yeah, I think it's great. It's a great entry point for a lot of people. I take my iPad everywhere. Even if I take my MPs or whatever to the studio, I still take my iPad everywhere because when I go in there, I might have an idea on the iPad that I can get done faster. As soon as I'm done with it, I can take it. I can just go ahead and airdrop it over to the computer and we're done. So I think that's one of the big advantages of having an iPad. And I think it'll really help out a lot of not just young, but new producers. Even if you're in your 40s or your 50s, you have an iPad, you can go ahead and just start making beats today. And you have a bang for your buck right there on your iPad.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. Just super great points about the lowering the barrier to entry when it comes to price. We actually have a video coming out this week about how to find cheap iPads. So it's like, and of course we're going to tell everybody that you can get iPad, just like you said, for $200 or less. And it is perfectly capable of running CUBASIS, Beatmaker 3, just freeze a couple tracks, maybe freeze some tracks, freeze a couple tracks, but you'll be good to go. But I'm curious to see what you think about this as well, Henny. What are your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, I truly think I'm right there with Bolo. I think there isn't any reason anybody should spark their creative music, juices in any way, right? The barrier of entry is very low, and the biggest thing that people are up in arms about is the education and the name and the naming of yourself, right? Like what are we talking about? Like how are we calling ourselves this? And I think it comes down to the fact that we are in a state now where development is just not as strong. Education is not as strong. And a lot of people are just going out there, starting things up and becoming successful. And then, they're not necessarily getting the extra education to learn how to do other skills, right?
Totally.
So, if I can take this iPad and I can, show kindergartners all the way up to middle schoolers how to start creating music production on this, that's great. I think we have the perfect apps for that now, right? But now when you're getting to a place where you're wanting to be more of a composer or an arranger, right? More than just somebody who creates, drum programming with loops, right? And you want to get to a space where you're combining what you're doing with an iPad with Logic or Pro Tools or with, musicians, and you're in a bigger space and you want to collaborate and you want to do other things. And then you want to, take all of this and produce a record all the way from the inception to the actual production, mixing, and the way that record is rolled out. That takes development, right? And then that also takes bigger apps and other things that we can do more professionally. That's why I'm always, stressing the pro features for what we can do with these iPads now, because we have great apps that can start people out. GarageBand, Bloxwave, Koala is an amazing app, right? I mean, we have other apps like CUBASIS and Beatmaker 3. We have, Aria Pro from years before. We have strong DAWs, but I think it can be taken up another step, and with that comes more education. And then from there, you can see you can start here and you can finish here, but it's going to take the developers, it's going to take the community. And I think from this point on, we have to start thinking about the pros. Like, remember how, there's a lot of pro guys out there like, you're doing all these things with the Mac, the MacBook Air, the MacBook. Where's the MacBook Pro? Where's the Pro features? Where's the Pro this? And we're at that point with mobile music creation where the professionals are like, hey, we need more. And we want more because we want to show you that we can do more with these devices. And, I think that's the stalemate right now where we're at, where we're just sitting there like, we just want more. But I think at the end of the day, I think everybody should at least try if they are, if they're excited about music, if they're excited about music production, because it's right there at your fingertips and you can get it done with little to no money. So
absolutely. Well said. I need a clapping sound. But no, super well said.
I got you.
Absolutely, man. Yeah,
I didn't mean to clap for myself. But it's all
hey, that was from me, fam. That was from me, not Henny.
There you go. Let's keep going.
Such great points, though. Like just this morning, somebody asked me in a comment, like, how am I going to sidechain? How do I sidechain my reverb inside of CUBASIS? And I'm like, well, we just only got the sidechain feature, the ability to just sidechain it all built into CUBASIS in a recent update last year. So that's kind of new. That might be an example of developers still out there trying to get this more to a professional level, but it's going to take some time, and it's going to take some big names doing some big things, like maybe Apple dropping Logic or some stuff like that. And like you say, upping the DAWs to the next level, because yes, we are so thankful for what we have. There's amazing stuff, and like you said, the beginners, it's intermediate all the way. They're good. They're kind of taken care of for the most part. But now I think it really is time to start getting start to cater to the professionals who really want to do more with these types of devices, want to do more things like sidechaining reverb, right? Things like that. So this is the type of stuff that we're really looking forward to in the future to come. And it's really exciting to be at the beginning of this as well, because it's a double-edged sword. It's like, well, it's not fully ready for pros yet, but at the same time, seeing how it's getting there in steps is, of course, a great story and a great experience to share with the community. So great point so far. Well, also a great point too on your videos where you've been recently doing, sparking conversations. That's also a great point. Make sure you check out Belo's channel, because like you say, everybody's doing tutorial videos, including us, but sparking these conversations that need to be had amongst the community is very, very important as well. And I've really been enjoying that. So, Bo, I just want to say I've been enjoying those videos for sure. So let's go. I think we can move on then to the third topic. This might be more of a fun topic. We'll start out with, I think, Henny. We're back to Henny on this one. You got to tell me, man, I'm every producer is curious to know this, and you actually let us know a lot of times through your videos, but what apps are you currently using right now? What's your favorite? What's in your toolbox right now? What's that really is sparking your creativity and imagination the most?
like we talked about, right?
Hold on, hold
this
on.
whole
Let me get
thing
my
about pros
notes.
needing a little bit.
Bolo's pulling up his iPad right now.
Notes.
Well,
Let's go.
I mean, most of my apps have not changed, right? I mean, I'll tell you, like, I got to a point where I was like, and one of the reasons why I might have taken a break on YouTube for a while was I wasn't I wasn't as
Inspired?
enticed by any of the new, the apps and things of that nature. Things just were the same over and over, and it's like, can you give me more tutorials on this, or can you tell me more about this? And I'm like, I don't. I'm just basically using it the same way I was using it in the last video. You know what I mean? So it's hard for me to talk to you about what's new. But what I had started to realize was I was missing out on tactile feedback from what I wanted from a mobile music setup. And so I decided to go with a little bit more of kind of like a mixture of hardware, mobile hardware, mobile hardware and software mixed with something like the OP1 field, right? So I
Yeah.
mean, this is when I'm like, okay, I'm using professional expensive devices mixed with this, right? And so I'm using things like Bloxwave still. I'm using AUM a lot still, right? Beatmaker 3, the main reason I have stopped using it as much is when I want to use it, I want to use the key commands. I want to be able to, use the space bar to play. I want to use the little things like, Command S to save, whatever it is. Like, just give us an update so it feels like it'll work with our pro devices. It's been a little buggy for me. Because I'm always trying the latest software. I'm always, going to make sure that I'm up on the latest iPad OS or iOS. So, between Koala, Beatmaker, Koala, Bloxwave, AUM, and then CUBASIS, that's usually what my main sources of trying to figure things out. And then I'm starting to mix that with things like Teenage Engineering's OP1, their TX6, bringing a little bit more hardware into it to bounce back and forth. It's been truly fun again, because now I actually can use my iPad as the thing that's taking in some of these sounds from my hardware, like I did when when we first started going in, and I had a ASR 10, and like Bo probably had an MP, and we were bringing that into maybe the Pro Tools, or bringing that into Reason, or trying to figure out a way to combine the two. That's what happens when you have professionals who just want a little bit more. We're going to have to search and figure out new ways to do things. So that's kind of how I'm doing stuff. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And I mean, blending. I think what I can see is that you have a whole generation who was born on touch devices, right?
Yes.
My children, probably Bolo's children, and they're that's why we see such kids wanting to do things with hardware devices, things that they can touch and bang on, or they want to get back into film because everything is so easy with a phone, or easy with whatever, right? They want to get back into vinyl instead of MP3s because they want to actually do something to actually play their music versus just hitting a button. So I can see that's going to be part of the future with this next generation. They're going to want some little hardware to go on with this software. So that's kind of how I'm doing it, and I want to continue to show people how that's working for me. So look out for those videos coming soon.
Absolutely. Tactile stuff for sure. I know I was super excited when CUBASIS super excited when CUBASIS did the update to allow keyboard shortcuts. So I can now hit the space bar inside of CUBASIS and have it play and stop. Super win. But
it's the little things.
It's the little things, but also mapping to be able to use a standard $100 like MIDI controller to adjust my mixing mixing channels, right? To become my hardware mixer essentially, so they don't have to just only rely on touch. I can actually have a tactile experience with a fader. So that was really great to see. That I can definitely see how that's kind of upping people's game for sure. Because I've definitely got a lot of feedback from people saying how happy and thankful they are that there's now MIDI mapping and keyboard shortcuts inside of CUBASIS. That definitely takes it up to another level. That was what Henny was talking about. We need to keep upping the levels, not just kind of stay too steady. We got to keep upping the levels. And also, just out of curiosity, Henny, have you ever tried Chompler from MSX Audio?
Yeah. Chompler's amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just wondering if you use that, because
and those are the homies.
it's a cheat code, man. I'm telling you, it's a bit of they got drums and loops in there. So because I know you love Blox Wave, and man, if you combine Blox Wave with Chompler, whoa, pretty much unlimited sound. So really great. So Bo, I want to know from you, man, as you're frantically checking your iPad right there. let me know.
Yeah.
What apps are you using these days? Maybe you can even talk about if there's any frustrations of apps. But for sure, we're looking for like what is your go-to apps right now for making music?
Oh yeah, there's definitely frustrations. My thing is I make beats on everything. I'm because I get bored really quick, and the way I produce is not like I'm not like a placement guy where I chase certain artists and get placements. I really work with a lot of young people who are either developing or they just might have gotten a deal somehow. And there people might send them over, we might work like that. So a lot of times I can really kind of test things out with some of these, new artists, and I can say, okay, look, let me try to use this, let me try to use that, and then let me see if I can fuse everything together. So far right now, I'm still using, Beatmaker 3 when it comes to it the most. It's a struggle because it's a lot of things that are not really solid in it. But you just kind of learn that, okay, if this happens, I know I can do this to get this back to here. If this happens, or let me go ahead and hit save now, before this happens, or let me bounce this down now before this happens, because even like with Chompler inside in there, it's a problem with that in Beatmaker 3. So I could have a whole sequence of that with the samples chopping up in there. When I bounce it out, it's skipping parts. So now, I love Beatmaker 3, but now I'm using more of Nano Studio more when I produce. The only thing I don't like about that is you can't drag in any audio or anything. You have to sample everything in it. Even like if I want to put my beat tag or whatever, I have to do it like that. So I usually use that, Nano Studio. AUM, I'm not as efficient in that yet. Koala, of course, like if I'm just doing something like I got that the other day when I was on the plane. I actually really enjoyed that. That was actually pretty cool. And of course, CUBASIS. I tried Zen Beats. I can't really get into it like that. I tried Audio Evolution, and I couldn't really get into that, So pretty much that's about it. Beatmaker 3, Fab Filter, Tone Boosters, and then another great company that I really love is what's this company? I really love what they've been doing. Bless Audio with their stuff. Yeah, so
shout out to Blees. Yeah. We've had them on the podcast.
Blees Audio. Yeah. Love the stuff that they're doing. They give me updates and stuff all the time. I'm gonna start doing some videos on their stuff as well. But like that's pretty much it. I'm still with the basic stuff on there. But I can honestly say that, because with the last update with Beatmaker 3, it was okay, we can now copy tracks. We could do a color coordinate certain things. Like it gives you a few things, but I know that me even taking classes of programming and stuff like that, the little things can be done very fast on there. Now, I'm not a developer or nothing like that, but I know the little things can be done very fast. And I think if they could take that, what they have, and just add on just the little things like Henny was saying, that's all we pretty much want. You know what I'm saying? Now,
we're so close.
We're so close. And then, some people like, my guys, they talk all the time. It's like, well, I don't like Beatmaker 3 because it's the audio engine. It just sounds like it's thin when it comes out. I don't know why it sounds like this. I don't know it's that. I'm like, well, I can tell you, yes, I had that issue before, maybe because of when you're, pretty much every program sounds the same. It's all the basic stuff. But of course, when you start adding things into samplers and then you start adding other things, you're dealing with the zeros and ones, and things change at that point. I tell people a lot of times is, well, what I do is I don't really put limiters on my masters like that. I like how my stuff feels, even with a little distortion and stuff like that. And of course, if I'm making beats, I'm not watching the limiter track while I'm making beats at that point. But I tell people, if it sounds good, it sounds good. Doesn't matter if I'm making I made beats that sounded horrible on my MP, and I made beats that sounded horrible on my iPad. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, it's just how you can work these programs. And I think that if we learn how to, well, not us learning, I think if these developers learn how to kind of cater to some of the people like me and like Henny who have been over the test of time with a lot of these programs, who have seen, because I think you was on Reason for a while, Henny, weren't you? A few years ago, back in the day.
For a long time.
Yeah. So you was on Reason for a while. I was on Reason for a while. I was on all these programs. FL. I was on FL for 4 or 5 years. Then moved over to Logic. I was on Cubase. Been on the MP forever. So it's certain things that we as guys who have produced like this, just the simple things make things so much better. And it's just sometimes you just sit there and say, thank you, just for something as simple as like how you were saying, just let me hit the space bar to stop my track.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I really hope that, man, some of these developers can listen to you guys and understand. Maybe they can contact you even, you guys' email, you guys both got websites, you both have contact pages. You're out there putting yourself out there. These developers, all they need to do is just have a single meeting with you. And I bet you a single meeting, you can distill down just a couple of the little next things that we need. Henny, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah. And I mean, that's it, right? Look at Beatmaker 3. It was released in 2017, right? We're 5 years into that Beatmaker 3, right? I don't think it took them that long to get from Beatmaker 2 to Beatmaker 3. But the main developer is not there anymore. The main developer is not there. And that makes all the difference in the world, so you have to understand that the brainchild of that app, from a coding perspective, is not with the company. And so you see why it's a little bit harder for them to get those updates, push those things out. And that's why it's like, well, how much longer is this going to last? Or are we going to ever see a Beatmaker 4 or something like that, right? It's been 5 years. 5 years in technology is huge, right?
Yes.
And there's so much that we want. And, I think the awesome thing about being on anything iPadOS, iOS, is it gives you the availability to try out all these different DAWs and see what works for you. Right, my workflow versus Bolo's workflow can be completely different, but we can be using some of the similar apps. We can go in between here and there on other apps to just try to finesse how we can normally do it on a full-fledged pro app. Right, that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to take this piece and this piece and this piece and this piece together so that we can do it normally like we would do on FL or Reason or Logic. And so if we can get to that point, it would really be game over, because these devices are way more powerful than enough to get that software out there. If they actually would sit down with some people like ourselves and say, listen, what is needed for professionals? And I'll say that because like Bolo was saying, 20-something years ago, when we started to see cats like Ninth Wonder on a laptop, and we were like, yo, on a laptop, like, how is he even doing that? You know what I mean? Like, we had no idea, right? Like that
was blasphemy back in the day.
I was like, yo, well, how is that even possible? And then it was like, it was Windows only, and then it was like, okay, what's on the Mac? And like Bolo said, it was Reason. So it's like, okay, that's how we're figuring out. That's how we can tell that we're still in our first stages, because, that was FL in 01, 02. But then you have the influx of producers who come in with FL between 07 and 2012 and those 5 years. And now it's like, okay, let's get to the golden age of music production. But
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm kind of waiting for. I'm waiting for our FL moment, basically, right? Because you have huge people on YouTube that helped bring that up. That wasn't just Image Line. It wasn't just Image Line who made themselves blow up. It was amazing YouTubers like BusyWorks Beats, Curtis King, and these other types of people that were using Simon Surveyed. The list goes on at this point. But rattle off half a dozen of them now, but back, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, there wasn't these things. And so it was because of the community that helped make FL huge. And then one hit after another hit. And then eventually, you guys know how the snowball rolled. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for right now for iPad music production. We're just waiting for big, huge, more big, huge hits to be getting, to be taken notice of. And honestly, for more producers to just come out and say that they're using the iPad, because I know a lot more of them are using them than are saying it, but especially because of the accessibility of all of these apps at $3, $4, $5 amazing synthesizers. I mean, Syntronic is like $30 on the iPad, which has hundreds of synths in it.
Yeah.
So it gets kind of crazy. So yeah, we're just waiting for that. And really great points, guys. I'm really loving this conversation. I hope that the audience will too, and see how it's so close. We're almost there, and I believe this decade, by the end of this decade, things are going to really start to get interesting, even with tactile stuff as well, when they start allowing us to have buttons on the glass, or when we start having foldable glass, just all sorts of things, guys. It's gonna get crazy, I think. But we'll move on now to the next topic. So you guys already shared what apps you guys are using. So, and this kind of dovetails into this next topic too, because you guys already touched on it a little bit, which is I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on mixing when it comes to specifically like the hip hop genre, because it's different in every type of genre. And I'd love to hear what you guys think, because both of you, and I think you've already said it in this podcast as well, that you both have claimed to usually apply very light mixing on your beats, if any at all. And so I'm wondering, we'll go back to Bolo now on this one. Can you comment on the importance of mixing in hip hop, and how far down the rabbit hole do you really have to go when it comes to mixing? Do you really have to become a full-fledged mixing engineer to just get something kind of decent out there? What are your thoughts on actually mixing beats for the most part?
Well,
on the iPad, of course.
Yeah, on the iPad, but you got to go back a little further in with anybody, and like how Henny was saying with just education. It's a lot of these kids. Some of these kids really made maybe 40 or 50 beats, and now you're thrown into this whole spotlight of being a producer and working with people. The way I started was recording in my college dorm. And then from that point, I was more of somebody who was just engineering my homeboys in college or whatever. And then once I left school, I was doing more engineering. I just so happened to know how to produce. So I'm more or less like an engineer that just so happens to know how to put beats together. I call it organized confusion in a sense. Yes. And then from that point, I found my own style of making my beats sound the way I want them to sound. I like dirty sounding beats. I don't like everything to be too clean. Even with my biggest record out, with the Silento record, like that mix that you hear on iTunes is the actual mix that left the studio that night. They never changed it. And I use absolutely nothing on that. So when it comes to, well, not absolutely, I did use some plugins, but I used maybe 5 plugins. I ran everything through one bus. So at the end of the day, my mixing is very minimal. Like I do, if the sound doesn't sound right, I switch it out. If it doesn't work with what I'm trying to do, I switch it out. Or if I'm working with somebody else and they say, well, I think you might can use this drum. Okay, let's go ahead and switch this out so it could be better. I believe what you hear should be what you get, instead of a lot of guys some mix engineers I send my stuff off to, I would send them off with certain drums that I had, and I'll come back and they'll be like, well, I had to EQ this, I had to do this, I had to compress this, I had to do that. And it took the whole life out of the mix. And that's what I do not like. I hate when people take the life out of a mix, especially if you're hearing it one way and the artist loves the way they heard your track. Why are you changing this from this point? And so when I make beats, I keep it very simple. I use a lot of fab filter stuff. I use a lot of tone booster stuff. I was using a lot of tone boosters because I was working on the iPad, the 2018 iPad. And of course, I think they had the A14 chip in it, the Bionic chip in it. And it wasn't holding the fab filter stuff that good. So I would use the tone boosters because they were almost, especially the EQ, you can put so many points in and you can do some stuff really good in that. If I want to maybe boost a little bit here and maybe take out a little bit here, but I would rarely do that. And I did like the compressor and the EQ in that. But most of the times, if I do slap a limiter on something, I use the fab filter, the L2. I would I use the tone boosters, reverb. I use that, and pretty much that's about it. And I might use some saturation, maybe for like some kicks or some basses, and that's pretty much it. Other than that, I keep everything pretty much there. I might use some effects, like if I might want to halftime it or something like that, I'll use the Bliss audio. I might use that. Or other than that, I don't really use that much. And that's for everything. On my MP, I've never used any type of EQs or nothing. I just use what it was. And then if it sounds good, it sounds good.
And I think a big part of that too is, of course, having the ear and the experience that develops the ear to know how good the sound is really going to come out while you're actually making it. Because I know, you made a bunch of beats on your YouTube channel where you make the melody from scratch, and there's simple melodies, but when you start stacking those counter melodies, it just sounds so good, and it's so simple. And just, I'm talking about simple piano mixed with like a synth you did one time, and it was just so simple. Yet it hit the ear so right. And if, like you said, you barely did any mixing in it.
Yeah, it does. Like with me, I can play. Like I tell people all the time, if I was in church right now, I can hold a service. I can't play a service, but I can hold a service. And I can, whatever key whatever it is, I can play and I can hold.
Hashtag Bishop Bolo.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can hold a service, but my style of production is very 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and I stack everything up together to kind of get the sound that maybe if somebody knew how to play, they could probably get it a little bit faster than me. But even people who play might not do the same melody that I do. So I have my own style of how I play and my own style of how I want it to sound at the same time. Because I can easily sit there and be like, okay, I like that beat Henny did for Chris. Let me see if I can copy it and try to make my own thing. It's not going to come out the same, because even if I use the same drums, try to do the same thing on it, it's not going to come out the same. It's not going to be that. Even people who try to duplicate people's beats, it never comes out the same, because you don't have that feel. It's always going to be that one note, the one thing, the whatever you're not going to be able to replicate even that time. You're not going to be able to replicate that moment. So I think that, with how I do certain things, it's like, okay, in the iPad, let me go ahead and just do this, come out with this real quick, and then I'm done with it. And if I got to add some stuff to it later on, I'll do it later on. But I'm not going to sit here for 4 or 5 hours worrying about a EQ.
Yep, I've been there, so I know what you're talking about. Like, because I had to make a decision a few years back when I was sitting there for like 45 minutes trying to get this sidechain and Pro C just right to the millisecond. And I'm like, I'm done. It's time to take a break. I just need to go play on the MPC, not the MPC, the Launchpad app with my MIDI controller, and just touch a few buttons real quick, because this is insane. And that's where you can really get lost in the sauce, or so lost in the stuff, man, because you can really get deep into this stuff. And that's why I wanted to know, Bolo, like, how deep do you recommend people go? And it sounds like that you recommend people get more experience first before having to start worrying about stacking 10 plugins on your master track. Get more experience to see what the sounds are going to come out like on various different devices, so you can have something to compare it with, as opposed to just doing this exact same chain that this one YouTube video told you to do. So yeah, great points on that. Henny, I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this as well, because like Bolo said, everybody has something slightly different in their chain and their mixing chains and their vocal chains and all that good stuff. So maybe you could tell us what apps you're currently using, or maybe your current process for mixing for hip hop beats on the iPad. How extensive do you mix your actual songs on the iPad, and what kind of apps are you using for that?
Yeah, I mean, like Bolo said, it really comes back down to experimentation and education, right? Like, over the years, I did the same thing in my college dorm with my ASR10 and a tape deck. Just trying to figure it out, and then you go through the steps of trying to figure out what a compressor does, what does the EQ do, what is side compression, right? What is the filter? How can you use a LFO? Any of these things are things that you can try out first and experiment, and then get educated on when you really don't understand how it's actually working, right? And so for me, it's been the course over the last 25 years. So it's like, I can't say that because I do certain things on this iPad, it's because of these iPad apps. It's really just because of the way I've been wanting to do my music all along. And I'm more of a chameleon, right? Certain sounds have a really gritty, dirty sounds, and certain sounds need to be very lush and pretty. It depends on the record and the artist. But this is the step, like the initial part for me, in my early stages of iPad OS production was like, okay, what sounds great? What can I use? Right. And so I was using a lot of like Clev Grand things, right? A lot of their apps, a lot of their effects and things in BeatMaker too. And then like AUV3 just exploded, right? I love like Fact Transient, Fact Maxima, Bleece stuff, the inbox stuff from IK Multimedia. I use that a lot. And a lot of it has to do with like separation, right? We got to find separation, and we got to always make sure, I was taught at like, a very early age that, you got to listen to a track as a sphere, and it doesn't have to do with, plugins all the time, but sometimes it's just about leveling, and it's about positioning of the track. So a lot of it for me is spacing, or, I like a lot of my tracks to feel lazy. So it's a lot about the swing, or how do you nudge a certain track to the left so it fits in the pocket. A lot of it is pocket when it comes to hip hop stuff, right? And then it's like the drums got to hit hard. So, I'll have a chain where I'll put on Fact Transient to make that drum or that kick snap really hard, right? And then I'll put on, maybe I'll put on like the low fly dirt. I'll put on some of that, maybe get a little edge to it, right? I'll maybe, like if it's an 808 and I need it to swell around my kick, I'll stereo widen that just a little bit, not fully, like not put it from edge to edge, but just stereo widen the 808 so it gives me a little bit of a separation between that and the kick, right? I'll use like like the channel strip from Audio Damage. Audio Damage, a lot of their stuff, right? Like their auto pan. Like I'm just trying to find places so that there's movement and there's separation in the track, right? So I can create this sphere instead of this half circle, right? So you can feel things on the bottom, you can hear things sprinkling to the left, to the right. But a lot of times that's where I'll stay with it. And then, like Lola was saying, I'll export that and fully compose that out in Logic or Pro Tools if we're working with an artist, because now we're in the studio, and now it's like I need it to be in an environment that's going to appeal to these artists and how we're working these things. And that's okay, right? I mean, I think initially we can say, yes, you can do all of these things. You can use, your interfaces. You can do everything. You can bring it into CUBASIS. I would always recommend, if you're going to do audio, like vocals and whatever, CUBASIS was always my first choice because of their Waves plugin that's already built in, and a lot of things that you can do and just the way that you can maneuver around that DAW for audio is great, right? But production wise, of course, Beatmaker 3 was king for a while for hip hop stuff. Koala is just coming crazy with updates to be able to do a lot of things. And for me, I'll mix between all of them and try to find that sound, find the ways that we can get it so that it just feels right. And if it feels right to you, just let it rock. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to feel like this. A lot of people get so caught up in trying to figure out, is it just right? Is it going to work for this artist? But you are the artist that needs to work for first. You know what I'm saying? If it works for you, then it will work for others. It's a lot about your confidence. It's a lot about getting out there and being able to share your music and say, stand strong on it and feel proud about it and be like, this is what I got. This is what I do. And you'll find the community who likes your stuff, and then you build on that community and keep rocking.
Yes, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Every time Henny needs a freaking clap, dude. Seriously. You can tell these guys have been around.
Let's go.
You can tell these guys have so much experience. I mean, come on. Companies, you need to be contacting these folks. You need to be contacting these people and figuring out what we want, because they're going to tell you they have the experience, and they have been blessing the iOS music community with their years and decades of knowledge for years now. And that just, that just doesn't come along every single day. So we definitely do have to, continuously give thanks to the folks that are out there trying to educate people on this. And what's really interesting is that I don't hear people talk enough about just a reference track. Just really start listening to it, really have a reference track. If you're going to really be serious about, getting your mixing up there and getting your skill, just pop in a reference track and try to match that, right? That's kind of that's probably the biggest thing that I don't see enough people recommending when it comes to mixing, because there's infinite plugins, but the thing is that they all kind of do similar things. It's all about personal preference at that point. Where we are now with ones and zeros, it's just personal preference at this point. You can do anything. So it just comes kind of down to really nailing your reference track. So very, very interesting stuff. I really love your guys' comments on that. And I think we can move on to the final topic, because I don't think we only got a few minutes left. Yep. So one more topic is all we're going to do. But we got through a few here. So this one I'm really excited about as well. Really appreciate the time you guys been given. But let's get to the final topic here, which is going to be about YouTube. So both of you guys are YouTubers creating content about music production, and even a bunch about mobile music production, of course, which is why you guys are here. But do you have some advice for some new YouTubers creating music production content, and how they can maybe use that to their advantage in their career? Because I know, Bolo, you recently said something about how a lot of the stuff might not be down to talent anymore when it comes to these days, because like we were just saying, it's kind of just ones and zeros. Maybe you can tell us, what would you say to yourself as a content creator when you're first starting out, and give some advice to these folks that are really so passionate about music they want to make videos teaching other people?
Yeah, I stand strong on my 3 E's. That I truly stand for, as far as being any type of content creator on any platform, whether you're on TikTok, or you're doing reels on IG, or you're doing things on whatever
so
the
much.
platform.
So much.
I always start with, you have to entertain people, then you can educate them, then you can empower and engage them, like empower/engage, right? So my thing is this: you're going to show what you can do, whatever skill set that you have at the time. It's only going to get better over time, whether it's the way that you speak to the camera, or you don't speak to the camera at all, and you just show what you're doing, right? Yeah. Whether you're just starting out as a producer and you're starting to fiddle out and trying to figure things out, a lot of it is just entertain people in the best way you know how, because that's how they're going to stick around, because you got to entertain them first. And once you start to entertain somebody, then they'll listen to you when you want to educate them. Nobody wants to hear education first. Everybody wants to be like, okay, wow, unless they truly need that, like they Google how does compression work? How do I EQ a track? Right? But if you're trying to build yourself as a brand, right, instead of just a tutorial service, right, you gotta educate, and then you gotta entertain, and then you have to educate. And when you educate, just make it as simple as possible. Make it so the kindergartner, or a middle schooler can understand what you're talking about, so it's easy, it works. And so some people are like, well, you teach very elementary, but that's the way that like, if you focus on those who are just starting out, those are most of the people who are searching and going to find you, and they're going to find what you're about. And then you can engage and empower them to do what they're doing. It's like, hey, I wasn't always as good. I did this. Show your mess up, show where things went wrong for you, show that the struggles that you've had, talk about the issues, so it makes it feel more vulnerable, it makes it feel more real. And the more that you stay consistently with educating, entertaining, and empowering people, you're going to start to see like, oh, wow, I really like this YouTuber. I really like this brand. I really like this content creator, and they're going to continuously come back. And you stay consistent, find things that work, and listen to your audience. If I didn't listen to my audience, I wouldn't do half the things that I do on my YouTube channel now, because I listen to them. I get what works. I engage. I can continuously, I'm going back and forth on, in the chat, or, in the comment section, so that you can build community. Because if you can build community, then you can show them anything that you want to do. And then you can continuously take them on that journey, on that ride with you, so that's how I look at things. And, a lot of it nowadays is algorithm. How do we figure this out? How do I get enough watch hours? How do I get my viewership up? How do I get my attention rate? How do I do all these things? That's where burnout is. Burnout is always in trying to look at how everything works, and being so analytical that you're burning yourself out trying to run a race that you can't ever keep up with. So you might as well just do what works for you, continuously do it, work small, build your circle small, build your community small, and let it grow. I don't look at my analytics very much at all. Never really have, because I was like, I know what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to provide a service, and I'm trying to do it right. And yeah, sometimes we get frustrated that, the views aren't as high as somebody else, but you got to let that go as well. They have a different audience. You're not in a competition with anybody but yourself. you know? And the more that you feel like you're in competition with others, the more that you're going to burn out and be like, well, why isn't my stuff, doing as well as them? And why can't I get the same type of looks and partnerships and views that they're getting? You're not running their race. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I look at things. And you got to realize that even as a small YouTuber versus a big YouTuber, you still have the gamut of opportunity there to work with brands, to do sponsorships, right? To start doing affiliate marketing, to start building your business. But at the end of the day, you can't get so caught up in what other people are doing. You got to focus on what makes you happy and continuously do that over and over again. And I promise you'll start to see some really great results.
That's why Henny's the professor, folks. I love it. I love it. Entertain, educate, empower. Right? I love it.
It's beautiful.
That's exactly what I try to do with MMP.
Yes,
I also don't look at the analytics too much, only just to make sure that there is steady growth over time. But that's about I don't look at the exact numbers and the exact views or anything like that. So that is such great advice. Right. Is to just keep grinding and doing what you think is going to be good, and while listening to your audience, because together that's where the magic really starts to happen, as is evident with this very video here. I would never have known you guys if it had not been really for your YouTube. That's how I was introduced to you, and then I got to check out your music, and then I got to see all the stuff that you guys were doing, and that is where it starts, right? Is really the entertaining. And Bolo, of course, knows this better than everybody with this freaking IG blowing up so crazy these days. Good Lord, Bolo. I mean, how did you come up with the idea for these? Because I tell you, man, my favorite one so far, by far, is dude with papers. Dude who brings in the papers, who start trying to rap, and all you hear is like, hold on 1 second. It's got some papers. He just starts crumpling the freaking paper, dude. It's like, just give me one more minute. Just one more minute. I just freaking love that. That's my favorite one by far. But it's just a perfect execution of what Henny just literally said. Entertain first, then you can educate and empower. So Bolo, maybe you can speak a little bit to that and how crazy your IG's been blowing up since you started doing these amazingly hilarious, very relatable videos for music producers and people around there.
I think that me and Henny both can tell you that we've all had studio stories.
Yes.
And we probably went through every imaginable situation in the studio, and some were just very funny, even though I've been in some dangerous situations that I look back and I laugh about it because it's kind of funny. And I've been through some situations where it was just very boring. I've been through situations where it was very intense, just trying to get a record done. And so what I did was I basically took that approach and just made it into what it is on my IG reels. Everything that I pretty much put on my IG reels is a real story, and I have so much more to even put on there.
Love it.
So it's all actually happened. All of that stuff.
All that stuff is all happening. Of course, I exaggerated a little bit, but
for comedic purpose, of course.
Yeah, everything happens.
Sure.
It's truth. Everything is truth. Like when I listen to people's songs, I've literally had people that would go in the booth and say some of the stuff that I sit there and I just kind of make my look like, I can't believe you just did that, because I engineered for so long. That's the thing. If you engineered for a while, you definitely have stories, because you got to think I was engineering from 2001 basically all the way up to about 2016, and I still engineer, a couple of my guys every now and then. But you got to think for maybe 300 days out of the year, 8 hours a day in the studio of that.
Wow.
And so that's what comes with the IG side. But I still, if you notice in my stories, I'll put some different things in my stories than I do inside of my IG posts.
Yes.
And another thing is that what I don't do is I don't get fooled on being a poster child for labels saying, hey, can you take this $1,000 or this $500? I need you to blow up this artist or do this and do that. I refuse those, because at this point right now in my career, and I tell people this all the time, like me and Henny, one thing that we have is we don't have to do the rat race anymore. And a lot of people are, especially on YouTube, they're trying to do the rat race because, that might be the situation where YouTube is really paying your bills. I do YouTube because it's fun. And then I have the time to do it. Like, I've been blessed to be able to have some records that I get paid my residuals for. And I have a lot of extra time. I have a lot of extra time to, do the YouTube stuff. But even to this point right now, I could really make all my stuff cinematic. I can do all the good stuff, whatever, but I try to get my point across more than anything right now on YouTube, rather than me trying to be the next Peter McGlennon, you know what I'm saying, on YouTube, trying to have the most cinematic stuff and let me do this and let me show you and let me have 5 different camera angles. No, people really want to have a discussion. And I think one of the biggest discussions that I'm glad that Henny came up with was about, your mental health. And nobody never discusses that much. And even in the music business, because when you start getting to that point to where you're really starting to get money and you really start to feel that pressure, and it's an undescribable type of a pressure that you cannot even describe, that some days you just don't feel good. And so what I did was I learned to go to see somebody. I learned to talk. I went to see a professional who I sat down, and I went to see a few of them because not everyone is great, but I found somebody that was great for me. We talked, and I feel so much better because it affected this music, YouTube, and all this other stuff. I was really just, okay, let me do this. I got to put the video out today. I got to do this. I got to do it. I got to put the video because my analytics say I got to do it at 1 o'clock, and I got to do it at this time. And I got to do it for this amount of time. I got to talk about this. Now I'm watching other YouTubers saying that this is what you got to do. And I was like, hold on, wait a minute. I don't have to do all this. So now let me just do the stuff that I want to do. Let me highlight some young producers who might want some shine. Let me talk about some things that we talk about in the studio. Are you using this program? Why do you feel like this? Is this better than this? This is the type of stuff that I can do now. And guess what? I don't have to do it that day. I can go for a walk. I can go have some time with my family. I can go watch some football. And if I don't make a video in a week, that's cool. If I want to make 5 videos in a week, that's cool. But I'm not going to put all of that pressure on my shoulders, because at the end of the day, you can make as much money as you want. You can do all the fantastic stuff that you want, but you cannot do it if you're gone. You know what I'm saying? If mentally, spiritually, if you're gone, you're not going to enjoy it. And right now, I was buying tons of equipment. I was doing all this stuff to try to give myself that boost of, okay, I'm here and I'm doing this. But right now, I am so much better now because I'm doing things on my terms. And I think that's what people need to do more on YouTube, is just be themselves, have fun, don't take it so seriously. If you don't get the views, it's cool. If you do get the views, it's cool. But at the end of the day, YouTube is right now, with how everything's set, everybody's on a platform together. It's guys who have 300 subscribers that might have a video that has 500,000 views. It's some people that have 100,000 subscribers that might have a video that has 1,000 views. They're making a level playing field. And then plus in our genre, it is very small compared to the other genres on YouTube. So we're not going to get a ton of video views and likes, say for instance, like a channel who is talking about gossip. A lot of those channels are getting those views, or even photography, video, stuff like that. Like you and I know you know this, Henny, some of your biggest videos was some of the stuff that you were talking about was in my bag.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
It was
it's the other things, right?
Yeah, it's the other things, and you can do stuff like that. So yeah, I love YouTube. I love doing it. I love talking to people. But at the end of the day, I tell people just have fun with it and just start. If you want to do it, just start it. Don't think about the specifics. Yes. Pick up a camera and start. My 8-year-old just started her own YouTube out the blue. I didn't even know until I started getting notifications. Now she has 42 followers and 1,000 views already in a week.
All right.
So
that's
it's
awesome.
Like, yeah, but you just have to start, and that's, just have fun, start, and don't take it too serious, basically.
And of course, if you need help, with the technology part, you go to Henny's channel. He'll tell you how to do everything. I mean, it's just with one phone, right? As Henny, you keep saying, you can start an entire YouTube channel, company, business with a phone, right? That's all. It's actually technically all you actually need right now. So yeah,
it doesn't take much these days. It doesn't take much.
It's really crazy. And I just want to emphasize the point where you said, Bolo, again, that both you guys, you do not need to be on YouTube. You guys didn't make your bag on freaking YouTube. And you guys don't have to actually be here, because some YouTubers like charge a little bit to have people's beats played, you know, but it's not like they're making millions of dollars from this. Like Bolo, I know you charge a little bit of money, but you are not making profit on this. You are doing this to get people
and to speak on that.
Yeah.
And to speak on that, the reason why I charge that, and I say this a lot.
Yeah.
When I was coming up as a producer,
that's what you had to pay.
I was trying to get my beats out. For me to get my beats heard in these clubs, especially when I moved to Atlanta in 2007, to get my beats heard, I had to spend $15, $20 on gas. I had to go park. Yep. Parking might have been $10, sometimes maybe free. I had to pay the $10 fee to get, or $10 or $20 fee to get in the door. Then on top of that, I would have to pay the $50 to sometimes $100 fee just to get my beats played in the beat battle. And then the beat battle would be if the crowd likes your music. So sometimes I would go by myself and I would have to win over the crowd compared to somebody who brings in 20 people with them. So I would easily spend $100, and sometimes, well, I never got kicked out in the first, second round, but you know, $100 and maybe play 3 beats. So yes, I tell people right now, if you want to come on to my live beat review, I even did it for $10 this week. That's crazy. $20. And you haven't, and a lot of these beat battles right now, to be honest with you, maybe 50 or 40 people may show up. In my room, it might be 120 to 150 to 200, but you're paying $20 for 2 beats that I'm going to play at least for 1 minute and 15 seconds. A lot of places you won't even get that. So that's why I tell people, if you're really serious about what you do, I put in the work. I put in a lot more work than a lot of these guys have. Henny has put in work. You gotta think when he's producing, you gotta think Henny's a very hands-on type of a person. So it's not just him going in there and he's playing the beat and then, okay, y'all go ahead and play the beat. I'm gonna go in the other room and just BS and do what I got to do and come back and do this. No, he's a producer, so he's in there. And of course, even, you know, back in the day, when you're doing a song, you used to have to be there in that session. It wasn't you just turn in and it happens like that. You used to have to be there, or if you weren't there, you still had input on that, on your track. So with a lot of these guys, I try to force them to understand that you have to put in the time, the money, the effort. And like I said before, I tell people all the time, if y'all guys are getting tired of this, let me know, because I could easily be playing the video game with my son at night. You know what I'm saying? But they keep saying, hey, let's do it once a week until you get tired of it. I'm cool. I'm going to keep going. And then it's not a money grab. It's $300 a week.
That's what I'm trying to tell people. It's like, guys,
that's going already.
Bolo, again, and these guys have both already made a bag. They don't need your little $30. They don't need your little $10. They're doing this out of the kindness of their heart, you know, to be able to help people, like, because they didn't get this type of help. So they're trying to help people and just making the world a better place than what they found it, right? This is just basic stuff here. And I've been in your rooms, Bolo. It's consistent, 150 plus people. I don't know anywhere else before the internet where you can go pay $10 and get your beat played for 150 plus active, engaged, live people. This doesn't exist.
And some of them actually gotten tracks. Like it was a guy from Alabama. Dude has no followers, no nothing. He played a beat. I liked it. My guy was in town. He needed some beats. I sent it over. Now he's on the track, and now T.I.'s on the track.
That's freaking amazing. Say that again. T.I. is now on the track. I mean, come on. This is the opportunity that, you know, the people like Bolo and other YouTubers that are playing people's songs and music try to achieve, try to create. And to me, it just warms my heart, man, every time I see people, because there's people in the iOS music the iOS community as well that do this, like Pete Johns. Shout out to Pete Johns for Studio Live TV. He plays people's music as well once a week, and it's just a great community. This is just how you can give back. So I just really appreciate it. I just wanted to say that, wanted to get that out there so people know that you guys could be going and playing video games with your children. You don't have to be on YouTube, but you do it to exact change, right? To affect change, to help, to educate, and of course, to make the world a better place than when you found it. So I just can't thank you guys enough for what you do. I think we can end it right there. Thank you guys so much for being here. Let's let everybody know one more time, where can we find out more about you? So we'll go with you, Henny, first. Where can we find more information about you and what you do?
Sure. Just Google Henny the Business, THABIZNESS. It's pretty much the same on all platforms. And yeah, you can catch me doing a lot of things. I wear many hats. So, you know, I'm around, and I'm always available to try to help as much as I can every day.
We're all
For sure.
solopreneurs here, I think. We're all solopreneurs, so you know we all have to wear a bunch of different hats. So I definitely feel that and appreciate that for sure, man. All right, Bolo, where can we find out more information about you, sir?
Just Bolo, BOLODA producer on all the platforms, YouTube, IG. I am on Facebook too, and Twitter, but mostly on YouTube and IG, of course. So if you want to have a daily laugh in the mornings around 9:30 every morning, just go to my IG. And if you want to catch me on YouTube,
you will laugh.
Yeah. You catch me on YouTube, you can catch me on there. I usually try to do maybe 1 or 2 videos a week, and then of course every either Tuesday or Wednesday night is the live beat review. And we're having a great time with a lot of producers on there, and a great time of helping people out.
Having a blast. I've been there a couple times, man. It is so much fun. Everybody is just there contributing, giving you tips and super chats, and just everybody's just enjoying each other's company and enjoying each other. It's really positive, too, because there's a lot of places you can go that will just start trashing your music right away. But that's not how it works at Bolo.
We don't do that. It's constructive criticism. If you say it's trash, you got to tell them why it's trash.
Absolutely.
And then you might have to play your beat after that.
There you go. That's what we have to. As soon as you diss somebody else's beat, we're gonna have to play yours right after. So fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Great show. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Make sure you do follow their links, subscribe to their channels. They have a ton of great content, ton of great information, and you might actually laugh a little bit as well at some of their content. So thank you guys so much for being here. Of course, till next time, everybody, please keep talking music, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Hey everybody, Vortex here to remind you to click that link in the description if you do want access to free sounds, guides, and more. And to tell you to check out the over 150 other videos we have about producing music on your iPhone or iPad that we know you'll love.